seeing that Malam Ribadu is such a deft policeman, he knows his job. Couldn't he have foreseen that something might come up, something like this might come up,
no,
and ask for a little more time to verify the figures?
Even the best detectives sometimes get killed in the field.
Couldn't he have asked for
it's
more
only
time?
James Bond. Yeah. It's only the James Bond that will take or Rambo. He never dies. Even the best detectives sometimes on the field.
Oh no, let's look at
look at
Mr. Rosaya's advice. Ask for more time to verify the figures. I mean, couldn't he have done? Just so that the report will not be discredited.
See, the one that they had verified. You're not talking about the one that had been verified. You're talking about the ones that had not been verified.
No, because that's the grounds that people are trying to raise to discredit the report.
Even if you raise those grounds, even the man that came before me that tried to look for loopholes to rubbish the report still agreed that
there are portions.
There are portions of the report. 80% of the portions of the report can be implemented. What I expect government to do now...
I didn't hear him say 80%.
No, he didn't say 80%, but I am telling you that 80%. Because he couldn't put a figure to it because it will be contrary to his own views. What I'm saying here is that 80% of that report can still be implemented. And what we expect government to do, while verifying those figures that Ribadu had listed as the figures that had not been verified, implement the 80% that had been verified.
Yeah, but you see, if you conduct a research, as the previous guest alluded, and the margin of error is plus or minus 10%, it raises a lot of questions.
What we are saying in Nigeria, and then like I told you in my opening statement, I did say that when I spoke with some former members of the hierarchy of NNPC, they told me that the problem that the report is going to have is verification. That most of these companies, even then, while they were in NNPC, they found it difficult to look into the books of some of these companies, and that most of these companies, you know, the way business is conducted in Nigeria, because of the corruption in the system, you'll find that some people will tell you that some of these books cannot be opened to you, in spite of the fact that you are to audit and carry evaluation, and then nobody will be able to do them anything.
Really?
Because yes, there are some untouchables in this. That's why the law, in spite of the hula baloo about the rule of law, I tell you here as a lawyer, we are not all equal before the law. We all know that. We are not all equal before the law in Nigeria. So there are some companies that are superpower companies run by superpower godfathers, and they are untouchables. And if what do you call it? Well, my friend Uche Opene will always say, if the Farouk Lawal's report, it generated more interest. Ribadu report did not even generate up to 20%.
So are there super lawmakers now?
There are two. According to my friend Uche Opene, if Farouk Lawal's report that generated a lot of interest could go the way it went, Ribadu's report that did not generate up to 20% of the interest would be very easy to throw behind under the carpet. We've seen it, and then also this you'll see the hand of government in all of this. The same government that set up the report, the committee that had been indicted in the report. It shows that, look, we are not ready to do something about it.
How do you say government was
indicted? Now, initially, it was...
but government was not indicted in this, were they?
NNPC, the minister.
No, NNPC didn't set.
No, the minister was indicted, and the minister reports to the president. If you remove...
What was the indictment with the minister? I'm trying to go through that report.
Go through, you'll see it.
What did you see there?
That the bonus signatures and the licenses for OPL and three of those licenses that the minister had issued, that there were inadequacies and controversies surrounding the issuance of these licenses and the funds for bonus signatures, and that three were issued during the tenure of this current minister.
So doesn't that speak well, saying, well, if I set up a committee to investigate and indict me, if so...
Yeah, that is why. Nigerians would have been very happy with the government if, right from the time the report was submitted to the minister acted timeously. But the report was submitted, and we didn't even know that it was submitted to the minister until it was leaked to the press, and then the minister came up in defense to say that it was a draft, and that we would set up another committee to look at it.
Isn't that why we didn't know? Because it wasn't a final report.
And the copy we saw on the internet was not a draft. And so he said he would set up...
So you've been able to match it with what is finally released?
Yes.
Even the confidential draft?
Even not the draft, the report. If you say the draft, it was like, oh, this is, the report was not a final report. It was a final report that was submitted to the minister.
I thought you said
and
draft.
Mind you, no, the minister said it was a draft, that it was not a final report. And like I said, I would not be surprised if it was some members of that committee that leaked that report to the press, so that all of us will have copies and we'll go through it and we'll know what is happening. And then the minister now said that they were going to set up a committee that will look into that report in 10 days and submit a final report. And that 10 days coincided with that 1st of November when they submitted that report. It was not a different committee, and we discovered that no other committee was set up to review the report that was eventually submitted. And so if no other committee was set up to review it, it then means that it was never a draft in the first place. And so that report that had been submitted, and now immediately the report was submitted, 2 members raising objections. If Ribadu had not countered that objection, that these people never attended, and that also they got themselves appointed, we probably would have been discussing something else. And that's why I am linking this to the Farouk Lawal's probe.
And if you link it to the Farouk Lawal's probe, then you can also exonerate the minister, because remember then, she didn't sit on that. When you say, because this is not the only report on petroleum sector. So when you say the petroleum minister sat on this particular report, people wonder how we have so many other reports on the petroleum sector which she never sat on. Then you now say the new Ribadu zone that you say is about 20% attention that is getting nationally will be sat on.
You know why? Do you know why? When we saw the same pattern, this government will never disappoint you. The same pattern, when Farouk Lawal's report came out, the next thing, Otedola's sting operation or no sting operation, and all the drama that ensued thereafter, started. And we were busy discussing it on air. And I remember also saying here that at the end of the day, the whole thing will just fizzle out and nobody will be brought to book. And we're seeing it play out. And then this other report that was set up, this other committee that was set up, immediately the report was submitted, because you cannot, use the same antic twice. So there's no sting operation in this one. What do? Let some members of the committee who had been compensated, let them throw spanner in the wheel.
And Mr. Ribadu didn't notice that was,
like I told you, even the best of detectives will not notice some of these things, because whether head or tail, people will say you don't tolerate opposition, so allow it. And so Nigerians know better, you and I know better, that raising that objection at that place was to discredit the report. And that is why we are discussing it now. And so people are already saying, no, we're not consulted, in spite of the fact that some of these companies were sent letters of invitation. We're not consulted, because a member of the committee had said, no, we did not reconcile some of these figures. And so all of these are scripts. It's like a script written by the federal government, and it's playing out. And here we are, dancing to it.
About the previous Farouk, which you say is fizzled out, because the last thing we read about it was police says that they will ensure that they investigate and get to, you know how that phrase they use. So one wants to know, I mean, since you're a lawyer, you know about prosecution, when is the matter considered to have fizzled out at the point of investigation? Is it that every stage, the public has to know at every stage that investigators or prosecutors have gotten to? In other crimes,
you would say, because of the seriousness and the forensic nature of their investigation, sometimes they can investigate you for 5 years, but nobody will know that they're investigating you. And that was why Boris' case was so easy, because he's been investigated and the facts are very clear. And so when he was confronted with this fact, he had no other reason but to admit. But here, what happens is, when the police people tell you they are investigating a matter that is so obvious, you expect them to carry out detailed forensic analysis. But some of the tools for these investigations are not available.